I'm showing up as an investor for the last 30 years, consulting as many years, coaching businesses, technology businesses for about 15 years, and also mentoring. I started a mentoring group called Peers on Demand as a way to be able to connect leaders, trusted advisors, so they can do business, refer business, do joint ventures. And I look at the time under tension situation where we have a tension that's going on in any relationship. In every relationship, we have a fight, flight, freeze, focus, and flow state. And our objective is to go from fight to a flow state. And perhaps that pause and that silence happens probably at every stage, but it helps to get to that focus. Maybe it's a focus stage and then a flow state where we can really flowing in the right direction. So it's an interesting observation. I'm very surprised to learn that we as human beings don't have 10 emotions or 20 emotions. Somebody came up with 4,000 emotions, and I thought, who is thinking all these things? I mean, that's really granular. And and so it's interesting that we could explore that, which is also different than feelings. So you have emotions and then feelings. And so it's really an interesting exercise to be able to determine how we show up, how other people show up, and how to really engage the situation. And where do we go from there? My thought is, let's figure out how to get to a flow state. Because I think the initial fight or flight instinct is really there. And most people have 10 emotions that they, anger or sadness or all those things that they gravitate to. And the flow state is more of an exploration. What is that explore? How do we come together? What is our unification? What is our common thoughts? So the flow state takes some direction, some effort, and some wonderful discoveries. And so that's a big part of the emotion. The big insight from here that I received from the speaker is that the emotions gets in the way of the logical thinking. And I thought, oh, that's so obvious. And how did I not recognize that? And it makes sense. So it gets, well, negative emotion perhaps gets in the way of rational flowing states. So it's a great observation to exercise. So emotions, there's so many, and I want to experience all of them. There is also a prior sequence, the physicality. It's how we show up physically influences our emotions, which may influence our feelings, which influences our behaviors. So there's a sequence to that, and it may be different in certain situations. So that's what I'm trying to understand. And of course, being able to master it, being able to use the appropriate response at the right time with the right person. To show up before you have to show up. And I take that from different areas. As an athlete, stretch before you have to really stretch. Eat before you eat. Talk before you have to talk. And in coaching, it's have courage before you need to have the courage. And so it's an exercise, it's a muscle, it's an emotion to be who you are before you have to be that. And that's how I interpret that. Because if you wait until you have to have the courage or the tenacity or the right emotion to reflect that moment, it's weak or it's too late or it's ineffective. Now, which emotion should you practice before? I think courage is a good one to practice before. Be courageous before you have to be courageous. I have some skills that I use to be able to get me into a state. It's a state level of courage, confidence, being able to communicate clearly, and more importantly, to be able to visualize and feel. It's a feeling that the session or the encounter or the meeting is going to go well, tremendously well, whatever that definition means, but well to the point that I have a really great feeling in my center solar plexus that I feel good about having gone through this before I even start, before I even have a connection. That's the preparation. So courage before you need to have courage, satisfaction before you really have the satisfaction. We tap into when times we've been courageous. We tap into those moments that we really came through. We tap into that very, very quickly and trigger it and actually develop some space, some motion. If you look at athletes, athletes are a very good example because you know they're going to go into battle or game or be able to contention. And they go through a ritual preparation. If you look at a football team, they huddle, they cheer on. You have a leader that's talking to. Some of those countries, Samoan countries, they have this haku, I think they call it, where I've seen men do it. I don't think I've seen women do that, but certainly it's a way to prepare, tap into. So when you really need it, when you're really going into it, then it comes in automatically. And that's how we need to show up as leaders in every situation. Now, the thing is, it does take a little bit of thought and preparation. But here's the thought, is we can bring it into practice in other spaces of our lives. Like I said, before you speak, you should speak somewhere privately. Before you laugh or have a good time, you should laugh before that, even if it's by yourself. Actually, most of the time it's going to be by yourself, and it could be really quick. Laugh before you laugh, eat before you eat, work out before you work out, and have courage before you have courage. What we bring to the session with somebody else. And I know 2 brains are better than 1 brain. I know 3 brains are better than 1 brain. I know 10 brains are better than 1 brain. And now, why is that? And I think she was able to express it in a way that I hadn't seen it before, that perhaps we interrupt that logical thinking or that pattern that someone is going on. And we need those interruptions to be able to look at a different perspective, different input, different feelings and emotions, other people showing up. So I know that it's better to have more people participating. This gives me a little more clarity about, oh, that's what we're actually doing. And interrupting that logical flow, good or bad, if it's a good thought or bad thought, I think the interruption is good to be able to question it, reassure, and have a go or no path for that.